boss, no less, as well.
Yeah.
That went really rather well.
The even better news is he is still my boss, so my employment wasn't ended during that.
No, you did take a telephone call very sneakily in the middle of
yes.
that. I did see you do that. So there you go. Some people would see that as disgusting behaviour, but he probably just thought that you were getting £1 million.
It was a sale. Yeah. If he says anything, John, it was a sale. So that's why I took the call.
There you go. Well, second of the wows for this year. So here we are back again.
We are.
This year is going so quickly already. Yeah. The fact that we're already in the second throes of this. Just to tell you, we have a wonderful guest coming up any minute now. And next week we have three, not one, not two, but three guests. How we're going to fit into the room, I don't know. One of those guests recently appeared on TV with Phil and Holly. Did you see that in the photo that I sent you?
I did this morning. I mean, is that a come down for them to come on our show, or really is this a step up? I'm not.
Well, actually, that's what I said in my Twitter tweet yesterday, and they said no, not at all. It's going to be great coming on Wow Ergonomics, and I thought, actually, there you are. It will be. It'll be fantastic coming on Wow Ergonomics after GMTV. But there we go.
So Phil and Fern, are we? They're Phil and Fern, or Fern and Phil. Are we Graham and Stephen, or Stephen and Graham, or does it not matter, or do we just go?
Only on a Friday. The rest of the week I'm Jessica. Right, okay, let's go. Oh dear! And with that bombshell, let's bring in our guest today. It's Caroline. Hello, nice of you to join us. Do not worry if your little one wants to come in at any point or say hello or whatever, because we're just used to that here. We both have little ones ourselves.
And Graham has a dog that frequently will bark, and you'll notice Graham will suddenly, his microphone will go on mute, and Trooper is barking in the background.
For no reason whatsoever. Yeah. Anyway, Caroline, lovely to have you here. For those people that haven't seen you before, some people might have seen me interview you a few days ago for Move, but in case people haven't ever met you before, what is it that you do?
Okay. If you hear any coughing, it is my little boy. So
I just feel sorry for him. Yeah.
I know. So I have an interior design business, and I also paint murals. I've been doing it now. I've been doing it on my own now for the sort of last 7 or 8 years. I've been in the industry for about 15 plus years. I went to uni and everything, so been doing it a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I think the main thing that we'd really love to talk to you about, and I know Stephen's itching to get in there with this, is we've seen so many people move into working from home during this period, and I think for a lot of people, especially from a sort of mental health point of view, but maybe even we know from an ergonomic point of view as well, it's been an absolute strain working from home. Certainly when we first started this, right at the beginning, in the middle of the pandemic, a lot of the advice was we were hearing people going, well, I'm trying to work on an ironing board, or the dressing room table is having to make do, so I've cleared half of the lipstick and the mascara off in order to put the laptop there. How do I make this better? But hello. But generally, is there some advice really, or are there some ways in which people can start to try and separate off the work part of their life and their home life at home, in terms of does design help with that?
It does, yes. I think so. I mean, funnily enough, I'm actually working on my dining table right now, which seems a bit ironic that we're talking about this. I haven't, even though I've been on my own for a few years, I still haven't got around to actually creating my own space. But I think it is so important, because right now I've got paperwork spilling onto my kitchen table. I have paperwork in my bedroom, and it's just not, it doesn't feel mentally
it's a busman's holiday, though, isn't it?
No,
doing anything
so
for
I'm not
yourself.
really preaching particularly what I'm probably going to talk about. However, it is if you can create a clever storage solution that allows you to be able to close off everything, and that room still feels like it's a homely room, then that is definitely the best way forward. So clever, I've wardrobes potentially that are completely empty that have got a built-in table in them, for example, that you can slide out. Brilliant idea, something like that. And the more storage you can get in a house, the better. It really does help, because it's not nice. It's not a nice feeling to walk into a space of clutter. It's not creative. It doesn't make you feel relaxed. So what now?
I mean, I would say one of the things we spoke about, Graham, when obviously everyone was working from home, was the fact that this sort of assumption that everyone had space. And we sort of spoke about, we predominantly focused around, maybe particularly in London, with property prices being extremely high. A lot of people maybe who are new to the employment, sort of in their early 20s, or even, I guess, mid to late 20s in London, potentially are working in 1-bedroom flats or single rooms potentially. Maybe they didn't have a space where they could even put a desk. So how would they overcome that? It was a challenge from the very start. Not everyone lives in 3 or 4 bedroom houses that have got space for a desk or a spare room. And that was one of the big pieces, was how did you help those people who physically didn't have a space for a desk when you had to work from home because of COVID? But that's still the case now, isn't it? Three years on, they still don't have the space. How do they create it? And how do they create that separation between work and home life?
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised though when you start to try and declutter a house. If you really, it doesn't matter how big or small a house may be, but I think you'll be surprised by actually just how much stuff you're keeping that really you don't need to keep. And it's when you reduce that clutter, you suddenly create space that you didn't even realize you had, and you could take advantage of. I definitely, especially if you're working in your own bedroom, for example, you'll be shocked at how much you probably got at the back of your wardrobes. And if you clear it all out, suddenly you've got space for a filing cabinet, whatever it might be. But I think.
My wife and I actually did that exercise at the weekend. Funnily enough, we cleared out all of we went into the abyss that is our wardrobes, and we cleared out all of the clothes that we now can't fit in because of the pandemic. And
because you lost so much weight, Graham, exercising.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah. But also, you just kind of, I think it's an exercise a lot of people just don't do regularly enough. And, even like, my top straw and whatever, you go in there and it's like, I haven't worn that for like 10 years. Yeah. Why am I holding on to it? So you're right. I think all of us, even if we haven't actually got OCD and or compulsive collecting disorder. Oh, that's nice.
Look at this picture. There you go.
That's
is that me and you, Graham?
That is me and you.
I wish I was that thin.
Yeah. Cool. You see, that's why I had to get rid of all of the old clothes, because that's how I look now. But yeah, I think it's a great exercise. What is the main issue that you've seen if you've gone into somebody's space like that in terms of where they're not using stuff correctly?
Gosh, what a question. That is a hard question. Yeah, I think again, it's certainly it's looking at how you use your room. Like, are you using the room in the best way possible? Basically, are you? Would it actually make sense to push things maybe to an outer wall to create more space in the middle of the room? Can you make more use of your walls? Because you'd be amazed by just how. Even just having a picture, it's lovely to have a picture, but maybe could you actually get benefit of having a cupboard there instead, or some shelving, and it can be done aesthetically as well. It can be done really well. This is so hard
You're doing brilliantly. I totally agree. I mean, look, we've got an old Victorian house here, so actually floor to ceiling space, each of the spaces in the rooms, we've got a lot of height.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes sense, when we moved into the house, there was freestanding wardrobes at one end in our master bedroom, and it was just you'd pile stuff on the top, and you'd never then get to that stuff because it was inaccessible. and we just got a local joinery company, not one of these very expensive people, but a local joiner to make up units across the end, and it's been fantastic, because you're getting all of that space, and it's just hello, and it just looks like a wall. Looks like a wall at the end. It reduced the overall width of the room a little bit, but it doesn't. You soon get used to that. And yet what it gives you in terms of space in the room is amazing. So
I mean, you probably find, like, especially in like living rooms, for example, you might have a fireplace in the center and you've got these alcoves either side, and you're probably just dumping a few boxes in the corner on the floor, but have you got shelves there? Are you really maximizing what you've got? I mean, you don't want to obviously shrink the room down too much, but you really do want to take advantage of the space you've got and do it cleverly, so that people don't even realize actually behind there is a whole load of stuff that you don't want people to see.
What have you seen, Caroline, in terms of sort of inventive or creative pieces of furniture that have, I mean, potentially either existed before or have come out since COVID? What are the sort of one or two pieces that really stick in your mind as to that's a brilliant idea, that would help a lot of people? Anything come to mind?
I can't, not necessarily sort of names, but I've seen many videos, especially in the sort of China, Japan. They come up with some fantastic solutions where, because they have some very small spaces of living accommodation over there, where it's something that is attached to the wall that they can slide up and it suddenly becomes a table, or they have these boxes that fold down into things, but then they take it all out. Suddenly they've got a dining space, and then when people come around, they can fold it all back into it, and then it's just a box in the corner. Just anything like that, I just find fascinating that people can think of how those items can actually fold back into themselves and almost disappear. It's like, I don't know, it's incredible how someone thinks that through. But
certainly things like under stair storage that can pull out so that
that is amazing. Because again, that's a wasted space, isn't it? Most stairs are wasted, and you can fit a toilet in there or storage for sure. But
I've got to ask, when you're talking to people, are people, if it's a workspace, are people actually interested in ergonomics? I mean, it might be something that people don't necessarily talk to you about. They might just be more concerned with the aesthetics. But is it part of the conversation at all?
I think it is, in a sense, if it's going to be something they're going to use they're going to be sat there regularly at. Like, definitely chairs is something that I think people oversee. You've got to be comfortable sitting down in the chair. And I think that's something that you need to it's worthwhile shopping around for and spending some time researching a really good quality chair, and just looking at the heights in which you sit at, because dining tables might be okay for sitting at for half an hour or an hour for a dinner, but are they okay for 7 or 8 hours? Does it feel right? Even like laptops, sometimes the height that you've got. I mean, I feel like sometimes I'm messing around doing this quite a lot, because actually I don't feel like the height is the right height for me.
Well, now Stephen's gonna help you here.
Well, I am, because one of the great things about coming on the show, and I was just messaging this morning Kirsty from last week, is that you have to send us a photo of your desk setup. And as you've kindly come on the show, we then get to send you some nice kit to make your workstation a little bit more healthy and productive for you. So we will cover that off separately, Caroline, but we're gonna help you with that. So I was just messaging Kirsty this morning, and Kirsty sent me a picture of her desk setup, and I said, that's making my eyes bleed, Kirsty. I'm gonna have to send you some kit out. And said, you don't have to. I said, I've got to. So that's one of the things that we'll touch on. And it's a theme that we've spoken about, Graham and I, quite a bit. We've done the show for a couple of years now. Is that whole laptop piece? It's still, you see a lot of it, potentially in some of the publications and within your sort of area, Caroline, where it's shown someone working with a laptop, and we bang on about the fact that it's shown generally flat on a table, and therefore it naturally creates problems with shoulder and neck. So we've got this thing, Graham and I, about when we pick up on stock photos, the BBC and a lot of news outlets are some of the worst for it. They show this image of how they think a piece of equipment should be used, but actually it's enforcing a bad habit and probably sort of making the problem continually worse. But that is one of the challenges people have, is dining room tables, height, etc. I always get this mixed up, Graham. A dining room chair is too high and the table's too low. Generally, that's the
too high, and the chair, yeah, because typically if you look at a chair for a dining room table, you know, the whole idea is that you sit on the edge of that chair. You don't actually sit back into that chair, and it makes you sit upright to eat, and you're up there. But for a lot of people, actually, they then sit on the chair, which is too low to the dining room table, and their arms are up at an angle, and then that causes shoulder hunch, and but poor circulation, flexion of the wrists, all of those things that can cause problems. I think one of the other things about ergonomics, and it's why I think the ergonomics community needs to work more with the interior design community and vice versa, is because one of the things that ergonomics can bring to it, or great ergonomic design can bring to it, is adjustability, and with that becomes flexibility in spaces. So for example, if you're designing an office space for someone at home, and there's the option of a desk, for example, that can go up and down, then that space could work for a child to do their homework at. It could work for someone of one height in the house to work at, and then it can work for someone standing to work for a period. So it can make that area so much more flexible for lots of people to work. And I think that's really important.
Definitely. No, I agree with that. And it can work. It can work in interior design for the room space as well, the setup of the room, like to be able to actually have a flexible room that you can transform and switch up for the reason, whatever reason it might be, whether it's a guest bedroom suddenly, and then or it's a sitting room, or it's having that because if we are going to be working from home, we do need to be able to blend into the rooms a little better than we are. So definitely, I think anything that is flexible is just going to be a lot more relaxing for the soul in a way, anyway.
I guess one of the products, just to carry on the education, but one of the products which Backer do, which I think would be really interesting for you, and it's probably one of the bits that I think kind of globally isn't known about enough, is the document holder. Because do you remember document holders, Caroline? We used to have these things like these clips that were by the side of your PC that would hold documents, and then you type off of them. But people still work with paperwork, and it must be a pain in the backside for you when you go into a space and you see that people have got like paper spread everywhere across the desk, and you think, how am I going to make this practical but clear it up? Well, one of the things that Stephen's company do is a sliding top document holder.
Which, as you say, Graham, it's one of the products that, despite it being around a long time, isn't a product that's well, it is well known, but there's a big gap, and a lot of people aren't aware it exists. So I'm funny enough, I'm actually using one now, so it's in front of me. So the idea is it sits between the screen and your keyboard, and it holds all your paper. So rather than you twisting left and twisting right and having paper everywhere, like you were saying about utilizing space, it's using that air that exists between the keyboard and the screen. So you slot it in there, you can then pull the paper documents in front of you, or a lot of people use it for things like tablets, etc., or mobile phones. So you create a lot more space. And I guess one of the challenges for people when you're maybe designing for people work from home, it's a limit of space. But of course the beauty is then if you can then get the product up in the air, it's sort of using that free air and reducing the sort of surface area you require to make a nice workstation for someone. I
love that idea. I mean, I can see that, but working for a laptop as well, because obviously my screen is all joined with the keyboard area. So to maybe have a stand potentially behind me that would display above my screen what it is I want to, even just to have a couple of drawings, because I have it all splayed out to the side of me, but it's just fine on the dining table, but it's not necessarily going to work everywhere I go.
And it's great because we actually do a laptop stand that has a document holder built in, and that's what I'm going to send to you after this conversation. Again, like you mentioned, there's a lot. Again, you look at the themes that are common between interior design and ergonomics. It's using that space. If we've got the space, let's fill it with something and use it. A bit like Graham and his wardrobes, actually using that space to do something else with it. So I think we know exactly what we're going to be sending you now. This is nice and easy.
And what about sort of color separation and sort of aesthetic design really in terms of living space and maybe a workspace? Do we need to look at slightly different sort of design in terms of the space that we work in? I'm thinking that especially like a lot of people will have a sort of a, you know, wall covering in a room for, you know, in a room for the house, and that's where they build their office, etc. But it's kind of too dark, and with like typical, you know, lighting for you know, a home isn't the same as lighting in an office typically, you know, and unless you've got really great ambient light, or you've got, you know, you've got great light coming from ahead from a skylight or whatever, then a lot of people's workspaces are really dark, and using sort of, you know, really dark tones on a wall or whatever, it just leaves you feeling miserable.
I think if there's a way that you can design your room or rejig your room so that potentially you could be sitting near a window, even looking out that window would be even better, because just having that, just being able to look through and see nature, or even just the occasional, you know, person walking by or whatever, but it's nice to have that sort of engagement with something outside, because it can be very lonely and just working from home all the time. So just feeling like you're part of something else can make you feel quite rejuvenated, quite motivated. So I think anything by the window and giving you that natural light, helping you to sort of adjust with the day as it goes along, you know, as the sun starts to set, you start to mentally feel ready to sort of finish your day as well. That helps. But yeah, in terms of paint colors, I mean, I've seen lovely ideas of where people have found a lovely spot in their living room, for example, and they've done a little bit of a mural on the wall, which maybe it's a motivational word or two, or it could be that they've zoned out the desk area with an arc, you know, like an arc shape, and they put the desk underneath, just to make them feel like this is my zone. Nobody else is, you know, to come to this area. This is my workspace. And once you're sat there, you know, that's it. I'm now ready for the day. And that helps too.
And that's really relatively straightforward, that you haven't got to maybe make too many construct. It's simply just changing the, as you say, maybe adding a word, changing maybe the wall in which they operate on being one color and the other walls being a different color. It just little changes that are fairly inexpensive and sort of don't cause a huge amount of hassle, etc., can make all that difference, can't they? Just creating that separation between work and you know, work and pleasure, as it were, within the same room.
Definitely. No, and you know, I'm also, when I spoke to you the other day, you also spoke about the fact that, you know, it's so useful when you go in. A lot of people think that that they can't actually do much with a particular area, but one of the things that you can do with your experience and your sort of design eyes on is look at an area and go, actually, you know, you can change this about completely. It's always what, you know, when we ever watch interior design programs on the telly, you know, I love Phil and Kirsty's Love It and List It, where she looks at the plans of a house and goes, do you know what? I can make 20% extra floor space in this house with the existing, you know, footprint. You just think that's unbelievable. I mean, it must be great to be able to be involved in those sort of projects and go, right, I can actually make you more room with the room you've got.
Yeah, I think anyone, some people do have that room in their house that actually they're not using very much, or they're not taking full advantage of. It might be that they could knock through a wall and make a space bigger. It might be that actually, I don't know, maybe their bedroom is in the wrong place. Maybe it should be at the back of the house or the front of the house, or, you know, if the light's better in a certain room, should they switch things around a little bit? And once they switch it around, suddenly it feels fresher, it feels different. Their mind starts thinking about, oh, if we do that, well, maybe we could do that. And just, I think when you live in a space, you become, it's always like that thing, isn't it? When you're surrounded in certain smells, you don't notice it, do you? You know, you've lived in that
smell blind.
Same, and I think it's the same sometimes with an interior. Like you've lived in this space, you've had your house in this layout for 10, 20 years. You can't possibly see it in another way round. But sometimes it does take that fresh pair of eyes to go, well, have you thought of this? And it's amazing how many people surprise themselves.
Just very quickly at this point, say hello to Susan, all the way from Ontario, one of the people that likes to watch the show. Caroline would just like you to know that she's quite happy if you want to fly her out to Ontario to go and do a job out there. It could be your first Canadian job. That'd be nice.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on today. As I say, as Stephen said, because you've come on, we do want to sort you out. So do give us a photo of what you're looking at now. Send it through to me and Steve. We'll connect with Stephen on LinkedIn. If you haven't already, send it through to him and we will sort you out some stuff. He'll also tell you about their task light system, because you were mentioning there very quickly as well about getting into kind of people's natural rhythm. They actually do a task light that does that.
Oh, yeah, so we've got a light out that it basically changes color throughout the day, almost to sort of match the natural progression of the sun throughout the day, and obviously it then ties in with your circadian rhythm of your body. So I'll send you some info over on that so you can have a little nose through. But again, that's a product that we think, especially, and Graham and I were talking about this the other day, especially where people are working from home a lot more, where the lighting they've got installed isn't good, when it was put in, wasn't the lighting that would work. Expected the room to be an office space. It was very much a sort of a lounge area where may need different types of lighting. So that's where we're seeing a lot of interest, is where people haven't got sufficient light, but and can simply add some nice task lighting that's very close to them to give them that nicer sort of working experience.
Yeah, I don't know whether you saw my poll on that earlier in the week, but I was asking people, do they struggle to get up at this time of the year, etc. And it's an astonishing amount of people that actually responded. I think it's up around the sort of 9,000 people mark now on LinkedIn, but it is a good 68% of people were saying yes. That, this time of year it's really, really difficult, and it's anything that they can do design wise within the home that would actually help them to get up, feel like this is a space that they can be more proactive in, would really help. So there you go, people. If you want to become more proactive, get in touch with Caroline and get her to come and redesign your space. Caroline, thanks for joining us for the first part of WOW today. It's been a pleasure having you on. Hope your little lad, what's his name?
Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
Hi,
thanks
Thomas.
for the picture of me and Stephen.
Yeah,
we'd like that framed, please.
Signed.
And signed. Because we never know, he might be successful in years to come. There you go.
You never know.
Get well soon, Thomas. Thanks very much, Caroline, for coming on.
Thanks, Caroline. Cheers.
Bye for now. Bye. Lovely, that, wasn't it?
That was really, and an absolute trooper for battling through a poorly child as well.
Oh yeah, she did really, really well. It's really difficult, but I mean, this is apologies to anyone listening that doesn't like hearing stuff in the background, but tough, because that is the reality of life these days. There we go. Talking about gadgets, I'm going to very quickly look. I bought this the other day. Look at that.
Okay.
Right, $3.99.
Okay.
And what it does, look at that. It spins, right? So this is, it's really good. So you hold your phone, and you can control it from your phone. So you can actually get it to lock onto your face, and as you walk, it walks around. Yeah,
nice.
$3.99. It's amazing what they come out with these.
Money well spent, Graham. Money well spent.
Well, it's absolutely. But it's interesting. Oh, what have we got here from Susan?
I was going to say the really interesting comment there about house building.
Well, being in the home building industry and always wanting to help those with my experience, I always tell those building new homes to build with the sun. Yes, have the sun rising, coming into your kitchen. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it is interesting, and I think that is a set of people we need to focus on in 2003. People that are doing interior design.
Sorry, when? What year?
What did I say? 2003.
2003. Let me just fire up the DeLorean, Graham.
Yeah, back to the future. 2023. I'm just not used to saying it yet.
No.
In 2023, we do need to focus on maybe the interior design community and see if we can get more on board with them, because they're doing a great job of helping people sort of create great spaces in their home. But as you say, there's an educational bit there. If we can educate those people about ergonomics, so any of you dealers out there in Ergoland, Are you talking to interior designers? If not, why not? You should be. Shame on you. Get out there and talk to more interior designers. Find out what they're doing in people's homes, because people need it. People seriously need it. They need better spaces designed for them in their homes, but they also need the ergonomics put in there as well.
Be really interesting to know, Graham, from the house building organisations, you know, the people, your Persimmons and you know, all those sort of guys who are putting up new houses. I wonder, have they changed the design and the layout? Are they now, you know, if they maybe were previously putting in sort of 4 rooms, is one of them now being specifically bedrooms, as it were, is one of them being specifically designed as an office? Are they putting more lofts built in that are being considered as roof spaces with the lighting, the Velux lighting that goes in? So it'd be interesting to know, or at some point, if we can get someone on from that industry to understand, okay, we can look and work on all the old houses that people, or the existing houses, but what's happening going forward? Is this now a consideration when they're actually constructing and designing new houses?
Well, it's funny you should say that. I did speak to someone from the Royal Chartered Surveyors the other day about it was really around the sort of sustainability piece, but also the sort of economic piece, because a lot of people are, you know, we are massively behind in terms of social housing in the UK. And they were saying that one of the strong pieces going forward in this year will be these types of rooms that you can put onto a roof. So I can't remember what it's called, but basically you can take out the existing roof structure and you can put in, it's pre-built, a whole set, a second floor.
Wow.
And that's something that a lot of them are going to be looking at, because there's going to be funding, etc., to do that, to kind of put additional room space onto existing houses, because there's not enough sites, if you were, for and there's too much sort of greenbelt land, etc., to create the amount of social housing that we need. So maybe that will even go into sort of like the private sector as well. Maybe more people will look at, can I structurally change my house within the existing footprint, not necessarily go outside of it? Can I put another level on? And in fact, talking about that program again, Love It or List It, that is one of the things that one of the people that I saw a recent episode of, that's what they did. They created a second floor within the same footprint area just to give them that additional space. Right. And I think that might become a thing that we see a lot more of.
Have you clocked Susan's comment? Brilliant.
In Ontario here, they include a pet room where there's a shower for their dogs. Do you know what? We're just doing it all wrong in the UK. Mind you, you see, Canada is a bigger land mass.
A lot of space.
It's like America, a lot of space. In the UK, we literally do have a lot of people living in a space where you literally couldn't even swing a cat. Not that you'd want to swing a cat, and I don't want, Cats Protection League suddenly coming at me. Yeah. But if you could swing a cat or wanted to, you wouldn't be able to.
What about, say, swing a cricket bat, maybe, or
Let's
a baseball
say swing
bat.
A cricket bat.
Swing a baseball
bat. I don't know, where's that term come from, swing a cat? I just don't understand it. Why would anyone want to hurt an animal?
Exactly.
Maybe gently carry it under your arms and swing it about in a gentle way, maybe, but not grab it by the tail and hurt it. That would be ridiculous. I also I'm looking towards to future weeks.
Yeah,
I have asked somebody. I came across a new ergonomic solution this week.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have asked them whether I can get hold of some video footage so that we can bring it onto the show. All I'm going to say at this point, and hopefully maybe in a couple of weeks' time, because next week's going to be crowded with conversation with.
It is going to be your name's not down, you're not coming in next week, isn't it?
It is totally that, totally that. But this is refuge sacks, right? Now think about it. Okay. What is generally wrong with refuge sacks from an ergonomic point of view?
the mechanism by which you open, where you sort of you can't quite open them, and they're
no. You think about it. Think about it. Right. So what happens with a refuge sack is that it starts off empty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? Starts off empty, and it's light. It doesn't really weigh very much, but then you fill it with refuge.
Okay.
So you fill it with stuff, and it sort of balloons into this big thing, which you then tie at the top.
Mm.
But then how do you then lift it? How typically do people lift it?
Okay.
Because it's closed at the top and there's nowhere else to lift it from. You typically then lift it from the top, don't you? So it's kind of like that, and then into a bin over your shoulder. Yeah. You actually think about the straining on that. It's ridiculous, right?
Now, we should have asked this of Harold Floyd the other week when he was on before Christmas. The lifting man.
And this person sent me some details on LinkedIn. Thanks for doing that. I'll get his name up so that if people want to connect to him and find out more, that'd be good. He's all the way from Hawaii. His name is Jay Paulson. Okay, his name is Jay Paulson. And
do we need to go and do the show from there? Was that part of the contract with him? Sort of
totally.
We'll show you video, but you've got to fly us out there.
Totally part of it. Totally part of it. And he's come up with the light lift. Get it the right way around. The light lift ergonomic bin liner. Right.
Hang on a second. Can he call it ergonomic?
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I probably in this sense, yes, because it does do the job that it says it's going to.
Okay.
Anyway, right. So what happens is, and you wait until we see it on the video, it's brilliant. But what happens is you fill it as per normal, but then it's got handles on the side. It's as simple as that, right? So it's structured with handles on the side, so that once it's full, you literally just lift it there, and then you drop it there. So you don't do this anymore. You do this.
Do you not often think with things like that, how comes no one thought of that before?
How comes nobody thought of it before? It's so simple.
Yeah.
But basically what they've done is they've looked at, like how Harold would have been talking about last week, how should you be lifting weights? Yeah. Provide some common sense that you don't. That's a very good point.
There we go.
Provide some common sense so you don't overfill the bags. Make the bags smaller. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant as well. We will be playing a video of it. We're just clearing it now in the background, not of trash, but whatever. Andrew said nothing to do with animals. Old Navy. Oh, here's where you learn so much on this show. Yeah. This is where swinging a cat comes from. Nothing to do with animals. It's an Old Navy saying for cat o' nine tails punishment. Okay. You need to explain that a little bit more. But that's brilliant. It's just great. You get linguistic advice on this show, semantics. You get advice on rubbish bins, and you get to know a bit more about interior design, all in the one show. Have you seen?
Is Susan talking about you there?
Yeah, that's me. Sounds so simple. Have you come across anything new in terms of the ergonomic world over the last few months?
I mean,
it's a slow start, isn't it?
What
2023? 2023. I'll get the year right this time.
Yeah, well done.
But,
have I? Bits and pieces. I mean, things you hear about potentially coming out in the future. I think that what I'm seeing at the minute is not just with ourselves, but with other players, manufacturers in the market, is that whole sustainable angle. That tends to be the angle at the moment. Sustainability, the material from which products are being made. So I think there are some tweaks to design, but I think the biggest thing for me is the sustainability piece in terms of, okay, great, you're making these products that are traditionally made from metals and plastics and all the packaging and all the plastic wrap that goes in it. How can you sort of make those more sustainable? So that's where I think the biggest change for me, Graham, is potentially product that were made with material A are now being made with material B. So I think it's a change of structure and material more than something absolutely brand new.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know from businesses out there who last year actually changed their sort of sustainability charter, etc., who actually, as an organization, said this is now something we've got to look at seriously. We are now deciding who we are going to buy from in terms of sustainability. Did anybody actually implement any specific sustainability ISOs, etc., or British standards, etc., so that actually their compliance is much more around sustainability now? Are organizations fully implementing those things? Because I think you've got to actually implement a policy and a procedure and a management process behind it. Otherwise, it's too bitty and it won't actually happen. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to know, are people really doing that now? And if so, how far has that filtered down through your organization? Is it, are you actually starting to look at what you buy in terms of things like ergonomic products, in terms of where they actually come from? Is it even impacting stuff like your stationery order on a monthly or probably a weekly basis for a bigger company? Are you making sure that all of the products that you've gone through, you've got to what the life journey is of those products? Or, is this something that is still a lot of hearsay out there for a lot of businesses, but they haven't really tangibly done anything yet? It'd be good to get someone on from the sort of sustainability sector at some point to kind of talk about that. That would be good. And maybe sort of governance as well. Anyone that deals with sort of ISO and British standards within businesses, that would be interesting as well. I shall add those to the list. Talking about the guests that we've got, what's this? Let's have a chat about a sustainability episode. Maybe. Ooh. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah,
sustainability all the way. I know it's a favourite topic of Andrew's there.
Yeah.
Guests.
You've lost your train of thought. You lost your train of thought there, haven't you? Guests for next week. Loads of them.
I've lost my train, let alone me train
of thought.
So next week, in terms of guests for WOW, I'm trying to get up my whole list so that I get this right. Okay. Right. So we have got next week. Will you confirm the first guest, which is Simone Fenton Jarvis? Tell us a little bit about Simone.
Well, Simone has written a fantastic book about the human-centric workplace that she's been doing extremely well with. And you know what? I thought, I'm connected with her. I'm going to throw it out there and see if she'll come on the show. And she's absolutely agreed. So we have a real life author joining us next week, successful author. I've also books available on Amazon as well. So she's joining us next week to talk about the human-centric workplace. So delighted to get Simone on the show.
And we've also got the wonderful Catherine Hyde coming on next week. She's founder of Hoop Hyde Legal Advisors. So she's covering her back in terms of everything legal, just in case I say something wrong, like I normally do.
Like 2003.
She's the Telegraph and NatWest top female entrepreneurial to watch in 2022. I think, we're just absolutely crushing it.
We may have to slightly go from 45 minutes to an hour next week. I think we have got to,
I think we might have to do the full Monty next week.
Yeah.
And then
finally, no. Let's just make the show 15 minutes longer. Let's not bother with the full Monty. So.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And also we have the wonderful Laura Matthias on next week as well. She is communications manager at Save the Children UK. She has alopecia, and she talks about body confidence, communication, and diversity and representation matters. And she has literally just been on TV with Holly and Phil. So, we have absolutely smashed it next week in terms of guests. If you don't come on next week and watch us, you are missing an absolute treat, because it's like 3 people that you couldn't possibly want to miss next week, all in the one space. How we're going to fit in, we don't know. We're going to make some ergonomic adjustments in order to squeeze everybody in. But next week, that's what we've got to offer. If you haven't subscribed yet to the WOW Ergonomics podcasts on the various platforms.
You mean
Please
people
do.
haven't?
Well, there are a few people that haven't, but
Yeah.
if you haven't done it yet, please do. I did manage to get my music podcast in the top 20 on Spotify last year. It'd be great if we could get Wow Ergonomics in the top 20 podcasts under the health and well-being category next year.
Yeah.
That would, or this year, that would be absolutely perfect. Make Christmas for me and Stephen would be wonderful if we could do that. You know, we could go around saying, yeah, we've got a top 20 health and well-being podcast called Wow Ergonomics. So if you haven't followed us on Spotify or wherever yet, please do that. And if you want to know where you find all of this stuff, just go to wowergonomics.com. Yes, we did lose Lisa Marie Presley. I think that was the news today. We have lost a lot of.
Yeah.
Do you know what? This has been one of these years again. A bit like, do you remember the year we lost Bowie? And actually, that year we lost so many famous musicians. It's been one of those years again. The lead singer from Faithless, we lost just before Christmas.
Maxi Jazz,
we just lost Jeff Beck a couple of days ago as well. I'm trying to rack my brains to think who else.
You're right. There were 3 or 4 others that I thought, and it was like, oh gosh, yeah. They just it does seem just to have been that sort of 3 or 4 week period, doesn't it? With lots and lots of sort of well loved, famous, and renowned people. It just sort of one sort of happening after the other. So yeah, very sad to read that overnight.
So yeah. So on that lovely note, sobering. Yeah, we leave you this week. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for our guest coming in today, Caroline. That's great. We'll be in touch with her. Do join us next week. Next week's going to be an absolute blast as we interview those 3 guests. If you've got any questions that you want to bring to next week, and why wouldn't you with a guest list like that, do come along, tag other people in, get people here. Let's make it the best one yet. This has been Wow Ergonomics with me and Stephen. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. See you next week.